Welcome to Don't Get Your Feathers in a Twist. My name's Jane and I'm a holistic practitioner, and this is my podcast. It's not polished, but it's real. Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favourite types of hypnotherapy, past life regression and healing. I've always been fascinated in past life ever since I can remember, and where I can I always used to try and book a session and go and see various different hypnotherapists around the UK, depending on where I was living. It always fascinates me that the first time I had a session, I remember laying there thinking, oh, this isn't working, and then all of a sudden, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, so all of a sudden, a very famous, I will say fictional character, a very precious fictional character appeared out of a very famous trilogy. Is it a trilogy? I'm not sure. And even now, when I look back, I have a little chuckle to myself. But it was just so random because I was there chatting away to the hypnotherapist, who was actually a friend of mine as well. And all of a sudden, you'll find yourself in this place, and it could be anywhere. And I think for me at the time, sometimes you don't realise what the meaning of this is. I remember at the time that I hadn't heard from somebody, a good friend of mine, for a long time. And I met this person in my regression because I'd said to the hypnotherapist X, Y, and Z, and she facilitated the regression to allow me to meet this person. And we had a conversation, and I can't remember what we were chatting about, but it was absolutely fine. And the interesting thing about that is as soon as I left her house, I got into the car, the phone rang, and it was that person. And that really freaked me out because I was thinking, hang on a minute, that's too much of a coincidence, because I hadn't heard from this person for such a long time. Other things in that regression session were really interesting from the point of view where I was jumping from one thing to another. I was very much a human form in one point, and then I remember being a bird and an eagle, and an eagle for me comes up in every regression session I have. And so for me, after that session, I was absolutely hooked on it. I wanted to find out more because it was just like having a normal conversation with someone. And that's the most bizarre thing. You're in this past life, but you're chatting away to the hypnotherapist who are asking you questions. And it's things like, what can you see? What can you smell? And all things like that. But it depends on whether you just want to go back in time and just see who you were, or you want to do some healing and heal some partnerships or friendships or situationships that are maybe not working out so well in the present. So for me, it was whatever you were dealing with and healing when you were in regression actually did have a knock-on effect. And I noticed the effect really quickly. So from then on, any opportunity I could to get a regression session was absolutely my priority. And I managed to find someone where I used to live and had a session with them. And I would normally say leave around 6 months to a year in between each session. But it was really fascinating because, again, I came up with this eagle and I was soaring across through the skies and looking down and everything. And I can still see it now. And one of the other things, I was in the water, and I'm very much a water baby, and I love the water. And that was me going into the water. And there was all these types of different things that are coming up now that I can remember. Certain things were a bit hazy. There was a situation, and I giggled to myself, where it was almost like a Dick Turpin scenario, and I was there, but certain faces were blocked out, so I couldn't see them. And for me, that was my subconscious saying, you can't see those people at this moment in time. And so whenever there's an issue, I can do regression on myself, or I can listen to a meditation which takes me back. And it always works out. And sometimes I've been thinking, I can't put my finger on that, I'm not sure what it is. And then when I do a session, it all comes to light. And some of it is quite comical, and some of it is so obvious. You think, why didn't I see that? But there's some really interesting theories around regression and healing, and do we have past lives? There's people who believe that we can soul jump, so our souls jump from one soul to the other. We believe that the souls choose our bodies. So if there's lessons you've got to learn, you will choose a next life form to take that lesson and carry those lessons out. So you can be anything. You could be, male, female, animal, whatever. That's because we're just energy, really, in this day and age. But for me, regression can be a very powerful way of healing. So if you've got a fear of heights or a fear of flying, for instance, if you go back via past lives, there may be an instance in a previous life or a previous incarnation where you may have been involved in a plane crash or something like that. So that has been carried through and carried through and carried through to your present day. So you may not be able to understand why you've got a fear of flying, but it could also be a learned behaviour, and that behaviour, where did that come from for that person? So by going back to maybe the first instance of when it happened, you can try and reset that at that moment in time, reset the situation and heal the situation. There's talks about, and if you look back, there's theories around people being fantastic musicians, yet there's nothing in their family to actually allude to where this has come from. But if you go back, if you take them back into previous time, it may be that they were a fantastic musician in a previous life. So there's loads and loads and loads of theories of what past life regression is. I think you either believe it or you don't, and either way is fine. But for me, if you've got a situation where you just clash with someone, and that happens, and you just can't figure out why, no matter what you do, the situation, you always clash and it never ever gets any better. It could be because of something that's happened in a previous life. So we can go back and heal that. So what we look at is any situation that we can try and heal from a previous experience, any issue, any fears, phobias. It's basically a different form of hypnotherapy, which takes you down a different route. So some people might just want to find out, was I Cleopatra? Was I Henry VIII? Who was I? Everyone wants to be somebody powerful in a previous life. So that's what we can do. It's just almost a bit of, it's quite a serious thing. It's still a hypnotherapy, and obviously I have a duty of care for the person that's being hypnotised. But we can take you back and to see where your previous lives are. And I've had some really interesting experiences. I've had some really interesting sessions where people have gone back in time and they've given me dates, times, and all these types of things that when you look it up, it actually is in existence. So there's all these types of things that you can look at, and all these things come out. So I'm going to be asking you questions about what can you see, what date is it, how old are you, do you know what your name is, and all these types of things. And if you know, you'll tell me. But if you don't know, then we just move on. So it's basically guiding you, facilitating what you then see in your mind's eye, if you like. So a session can go on as long as we want to make it. I tend to keep the sessions between 1 hour with a 30 minutes buffer at the end, and just to make sure that I can bring you out of hypnosis. Past life regression, I can record those sessions if you wish. I tend to record the sessions where it's just past life as opposed to healing and regression. There might be a little bit of healing in there, that's absolutely fine because we don't know what's going to come out. But if someone said to me, I just want to go back in time and see what's there, see who I was and have a look around, then I would record those sessions. But if someone came to me with a bit more of a challenging issue, or they weren't sure about this, that and the other, I wouldn't record those sessions because those sessions are private. So just to talk you through what happens in a session, basically it's the same as hypnotherapy. We start off with a normal, are you ready for hypnotherapy? And then we take you down into a trance. And then from there, I go a slightly different way, depending on what happens in the induction, as to where I then take you. And so we go through the process, and I'll be chatting to you and talking to you and asking you questions every step of the way. Again, you're perfectly safe, and if I have any concerns, I will bring you out of the hypnosis straight away. So I hope you found that useful. bit of information about past life regression and healing. And as I said, there's many different routes and many different ways to get to where we need to get to. So if you're interested in past life regression and healing, then please look on my website where you can book a session directly. And I will have some podcasts coming up with my clients who have experienced past life regression and healing to get their point of view.
Thank you for listening to Don't Get Your Feathers in a Twist. Please check out my website www.7purplefeathers.com, and if you've got any questions, queries or comments, please get in touch.